The question is asking for the probability of obtaining one head and two tails, so I'm gonna start by listing all the possible outcomes. In the first column, we have the outcomes for the first flip, and then the second column, and then the third column. And so we have heads, 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 and then heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, tails, and then we have tails, heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, and then tails, tails, heads, and then we have tails, tails, and tails. And then if we count all these outcomes, we have 8 total. And since we're looking for the successful outcomes that contain one head and two tails, we have heads, tails, tails, and then tails, heads, tails, and then we have tails, tails, and heads, and we have a total of 3 successful outcomes. So we put 3 in the numerator, and we have 3, 8 as our answer. But I'm gonna show you another way because it's not efficient for when you toss a coin for 16, because we're not gonna write down all the possible outcomes. So the second way is also having 3 columns. And then we have heads and tails, because when we flip a coin, there's gonna be an outcome of heads or tails, and then heads or tails, and heads or tails. And then we group the heads and heads, and then the heads and tails, because they're independent events. And then we repeat the process. We repeat the process for the tail and the first flip. And then we take the whole process again and repeat it for the head and the third flip, and the tail and the third flip. So we have 2 times 2 times 2, and then that equals 8. So we have an 8 total outcomes, and then we have 3 total outcomes that are successful, and then we can write them down as heads, tails, 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 heads, tails, and then tails, tails, heads. And we have 3 successful outcomes. So we will put 3 in the numerator of the fraction, and we have the same answer of 3, 8 as our answer. I hope you understood my explanation, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.